With the law class getting a brand new scuba assignment, we followed them on a 6-day long journey to figure out if they will sink or swim. Join with us as we find out the answer to this situation.
At the Tech Center, we want you to be as career ready as possible when you leave here. Our students, when you graduate, should have a leg up over the competition. So in my law enforcement program, I was trying to think of a cool certification we can offer, and that's where I dreamt up becoming a scuba diver, certified rescue diver. When I was 16 years old, I personally just sent myself through the training. I thought it was something cool that I wanted to do. Kind of got me through college doing that, and when I became a deputy at 22, I had several years of diving experience. When I became 25 years of age, there was a dive team opening at the sheriff's office, and I already had 9 years of diving experience. So I was able to slide right into that position. So the certified rescue diving, it'll give our students just a little leg up over the competition that they're going to be certified divers. As far as we know, we're the first school in the state of Michigan to offer this program. Yesterday was our first time in the pool. We just did basic stuff, learning the mask clearing. The kids were now able to take their mask off underwater, clear it, working with their snorkels. Next week we'll implement the fins, so they'll have masks, snorkels, and fins. And then the week after that we'll actually get out the dive gear and they'll take their first breaths underwater. But that way, all things being equal, when the students are graduated trying to get their jobs in public safety, they already have that certification. Hey, I'm a rescue diver. My juniors and seniors this year, since it's our first year we're doing it, will all be open water certified, which will take them down about 90 feet of water. My juniors next year, though, will be able to come back and become a rescue diver, where my juniors will start having their open water certification. So it'll actually be 2 years of scuba diving, but that way they have the rescue diving certification when they get out in the real world. It'll give them that leg up. It shows they have that initiative, just to help them be a little bit more career ready.
I'm Nora Franzel, and this is my first year in the law class. I'm from Ubley. I would totally recommend the scuba diving class. How many classes do you take where you can be swimming in a pool and learning new concepts, and you're learning it in a fun and immersive way rather than staring at a book all day, which I highly appreciate.
The kids seemed to have a blast yesterday. This was pretty exciting for them to do this. I had to pay out of my own pocket to do this, and it was just something that I wanted to do. Being as that the kids are getting this, for free, and the certification that they'll have for their whole lives, I think it's awesome. The kids seem to be having a blast with it. We were swimming in a pool yesterday when a lot of kids were in classrooms. Just another advantage at the Tech Center. So we had our second day of dive training this past week. We were at the pools, and we just started off, last week was was mask and snorkel. This week we implemented fins, and we just added to a little bit of last week. The way you practice is the way you play. I'm sure your coaches tell you that. Same thing in public safety. The way you train is the way you're going to perform when an emergency happens. You will resort back to your training. You build good habits, good muscle memory, and you should do that in anything in life. The way you practice is the way you're going to play in life. The way you train is the way you're going to perform. So we added to the mask clearing, snorkel work. We implemented the fins and basic kicks, and we started swimming with the victim. So you found a drowning victim or your buddy, even if out in real life you're out in Saginaw Bay, something happens, how to swim to shore, keeping his head above water. So just basic things.
It was a lot easier on the second day. It was a lot more funner. We got to be mermaids for a little bit.
Day 2 was actually easier than day 1, I think, because we got to work with the fins. My fins were too big, so it was kind of hard to kick, but I got the hang of it, and it's really fun.
And we introduced the dive equipment. Your buoyancy control, your regulator, thing that you breathe out of, putting that together, and next week we'll take our first breaths underwater. So we did day 3, week 3 of scuba diving here at the law enforcement program. Yesterday the kids took their first breaths underwater. I remember when I did that, kind of like yesterday, because it's so unnatural. Your whole life you're taught not to breathe underwater, you have to hold your breath. And now you have a regulator in your mouth and you're told to breathe underwater. And that first breath is trying to get the normal breaths in. People kind of get excited and they take short, quick breaths and they go through a lot of oxygen really fast through their tank. So it's just trying to slow the kids down, get normal breathing underwater. They seem to be very receptive of it. Seem to have a blast, a lot of smiling faces yesterday. Also, we took our mask off underwater, had to put them back on, and then also pulled our regulators out. That happens quite often when you're diving. You'll get kicked in the face with a fin, or someone else in low visibility might grab your mask and pull it off your face. So just that way you know how to put it back on.
So yesterday at SCUBA, we put the air tanks on and practiced breathing underwater. It was pretty fun. Learned a lot and learned that you could actually breathe underwater. And I felt like I did pretty good. I mean, it's my first time, so I wasn't good, like the best at it, but I think I did pretty good.
So it's better to learn now in a nice, safe, confined environment in a pool, as opposed to when it happens out in the lake or 60 feet underwater. Week 4, day 4 of scuba diving training. Our students this past week learned how to buddy breathe. In case you're underwater, and you run out of air, your regulator malfunctions. So you can take your dive partner's regulator, put it in your mouth, learn to breathe on each other's, share with it, use your octopus, which is your secondary regulator. Then they also learn how to have to take off your dive gear underwater and put it back on. One time I got tangled up with a cable underwater and my gear was tangled up and I actually had to do that. So it's something that you play like you practice. The way you train is the way you're going to perform in real life.
I like how we get out of class, we don't do a lot of book work, a lot of hands-on stuff, and we get to go swimming, and hot tub is a plus after we get out of the pool.
So far, one of my favorite things of the scuba diving is when we took our first breath underwater. It was just a cool experience because we never experienced something like that before, and just being underwater for a long period of time has just been really cool.
We didn't want anyone to be paranoid, but you have to be prepared. So what are we going to do if your dive partner turns unconscious? Different medical things can happen underwater. They're alive, but they're just unconscious. How to roll them over. Big thing with them is keeping their head up, so that way the oxygen will, as you swim up with them, that way the oxygen can leave their lungs. If you keep their head down, the oxygen can't leave their lungs. Their lungs can overinflate due to the pressure, and they can be life-threatening. Other thing, if you have an emergency, how to drop your weights underwater. Human body's naturally buoyant, you naturally float. So we have to put additional weight on to make us sink. And then we have a vest on with air. You just hit a little button, pumps air into your vest, and you get buoyant, and you just float. You're completely weightless underwater. When bad things happen, if you need to get to the surface, you have to practice dropping your weight belts so you can get to the surface. Never beat your bubbles, because again, your lungs can overinflate and can be life-threatening. So you never swim up faster than your bubbles are going to the surface.
So last week during our scuba diving training, we learned how to pick up an unconscious diver along the seafloor in case of emergencies. We learned to manually inflate our jacket, even though we were almost guaranteed that it would never happen. But knowing our world, it's probably going to happen to a lot of us. We all got pretty bad luck. We had full gear on besides the wetsuits. The flippers are they're an interesting touch. It makes it a lot harder to do just about anything because our flippers are pretty big. So with the rescue diving, it's a very interesting thing that it takes time to learn because you have to be able to flip a person over underwater while managing to keep yourself from flailing about wildly. And with that, you have to make sure that their air is still continuing. Otherwise, they will actually turn. It's an interesting shade of purple and blue. And even though it's a very pretty look on their face, it's not very pleasant for them when they wake up.
So this week we recovered an unconscious diver and did some stuff with weights and more stuff with flippers. And I got a little bit more used to the flippers, and it's actually pretty easy once you get used to it. And I had the full gear on, which was pretty cool with the wetsuit and the boots and everything. It was pretty cool. And over the past weeks, it's been easier to get more comfortable with breathing underwater for me, and a few other people have been doing that too. But one thing that we've really learned is don't lose any of this stuff don't lose or break any of this stuff because it's really expensive.
Day 6, the class went on reviewing everything they learned the 5 days prior. The students were able to do the stuff all on their own, from clearing their mask to flipping over an unconscious victim, all the basics the class has gone over. This was a great experience and a greater achievement for these students. For them, this means that they can use these skills to become a rescue diver or even just go for a dive. For the last 6 weeks we've been following this story. We figured out that these students are actually capable of learning a scuba diving class that they weren't prepared for before this.